Welcome back. My name is Robert, and I am the recovery guy. I'm always encouraged to be in studio and producing more video segments that might help you along your road to recovery. I'm extra excited. Today I have my good friend Chris in studio with us, and Chris, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
It's good to be here. Good to have you with us. I've known Chris since 2011, and it's been exciting to watch Chris grow in his personal recovery and his service towards others, and I appreciate the friendship, so thank you again.
Thank you.
So in this segment, we're going to do some question and answer. In the meetings that we go to, there's a lot of things that are brought up, concerns that we see, but also questions that newcomers and other people are concerned with. So we thought we'd spend a few minutes and address some of those questions. We understand that we don't have all the answers. This is just really based on our own experience, strength, and hope. And so you might have a different response or a more complete response. Either way, it's all good. One of the things that was brought up, Chris, was some people having difficulty with a higher power, mainly understanding the difference between religion and spirituality. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a really religious home, and my issue was that I had a very narrow mind on what I believed God was, and I saw God as a very condemning figure, and so I always rejected that notion. And so until I was really willing to open up and see it as a spiritual side of things rather than just a religious side of things, that was the only time I was actually able to build a connection with God that was personal to me, and I was able to build a relationship based on where I was at, and also on a spiritual level rather than a religious level.
You know, and I think there's a real advantage that AA and NA and the other 12-step programs have, is that it's a God of my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, which is our first introduction to God, or higher powers, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And it can be very open, very ambiguous. There's not a real defined version of God that I or you, matter of fact, we can even disagree on who that God is, as long as we are open-minded to thinking that there is a power out there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I know for me, when I came into the program, I read out of the literature that there will come a time where a human power can't keep me sober, and so because of that, I had a desperation to seek it. And that's a beautiful luxury that we have in a 12-step based program, is we're not stuck with a very narrow view of what a higher power has to be. We have a very open view of it just has to be a power greater than ourselves.
And that's so critical, because spirituality is my relationship with God. Religion, I think, has a tendency to give me your version of who God is based on your core set of beliefs, and I need to align myself with that, which is much more restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the real challenge, I think, for many people is we either get the God part or we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And since 8 of the 12 steps are directly designed to grow my relationship with God as I understand God, I either get the God part right or I don't get the steps.
Yeah, I agree, and that was one thing that you definitely helped me out a lot with. I remember when we were going through step work, when I was running into issues with, say step 3, one thing that was very beneficial that you did was you backed me up on the steps, because if I'm not getting the concept behind step 3, it's not an issue with step 3, it's an issue with the previous steps.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing that always helped me a lot, was that it's not, if I can't grasp step 3, I need to go back and I need to look at my step 2. if I'm not grasping step 2, I need to look back at my step 1.
Yeah, that's important because each previous step will dictate how strong I am in the next step. You know, another one of the thoughts that came to mind, and I hear a lot, is the importance of service work and contributing. I know you're very involved in service. My sponsor, Jack, he told me, he was so adamant about service, he said he had never seen a person actively involved in service who relapsed. He said he's sure there were some out there, he just didn't know anyone who took service, who took giving back, and then went back out. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to serve, because I wanted that added assurance. And I know you're really active. So what are some of the things that you do?
For me, when I first came into the program, I got railroaded in. It wasn't a choice. It was my friends pushed me into it. But so at first I really didn't like doing it. But what I realized is it gave me, like you said, some assurance that through the rocky times that you can have in recovery and in life, it stabilized things out for me a little bit, So the service positions that I'm currently involved in now, I have a home group, I sponsor people, I'm involved in a YPOC committee, which is like a young people in AA, and that's been really beneficial to be able to go out and do fun things with people young in recovery and show people that it's possible to be sober and have fun. And then I'm also I take in, because of how beneficial it was for you to bring in a big book study when I was in treatment. That's something that I do now, because that was what opened me up to the program. And I mean, before I had a very deep-rooted resentment against 12-step-based programs, and that's what got me over it. So
nice. Because whether you're straightening the chairs, whether you're making the coffee or cleaning the coffee pot afterwards, there's a level of service available for everyone who comes in.
Yeah.
The most important thing is it's not what you do, it's that we do something. Service is critical.
You know what's kind of funny about that too is I sometimes envy the service positions I had when I first got sober. I mean, now I have to be a treasurer, and that's boring, and it's not anything too exciting. I do it because it's needed, but I miss being a door greeter. I miss washing the coffee cups, because that's very tangible. You get to build your network of people in recovery, and it's a lot more enjoyable, really. Yeah. So I kind of envy it.
Well, go clean a coffee cup and get rid of some of that guilt. It talks about people, places, and things, and how they affect us. And obviously, the people and places and things that we were involved with before we got into treatment, obviously, that needs to change. Because, like it says, we need to change old playgrounds and old playmates. People, places, and things really, they're not anything we can do without. We always need people. We're always going to be in particular places, and we need things in our life. But that shifts for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, I had to go from having all these negative people in my life, and I had to put a lot of intention and effort behind surrounding myself around good people, finding good routines, things like that. And it takes effort and intention to change those, because it's so easy for all of us to go back to old people in our life, old places, old things. And so that's something that you, in my opinion, you really have to put some intention and effort behind in order to change.
Yeah. So it's kind of like evaluating why do I hang out with who I hang out with? Mm-hmm. Why do I go where I'm going? And why do I have these things in my life that I think are important? And as we evaluate them, obviously I think we want to move out the negative to replace it with the positives that we get by the new people and the places that we're going and the things that we're accumulating with our recovery. Does that that seem about right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you always kind of have to be looking at what you need to change to be able to progress in your life and progress in your recovery.
One of the things that you had brought up when we were having a conversation prior to this segment, we talked about the quality versus quantity. You know, we like to think that there's a correlation between the two, and sometimes there is. Sometimes we meet people who really have a depth of quality in their sobriety, and a lot of it's because of what they've learned along the way. Certainly with my sponsor, he just celebrated 43 years of sobriety, and he's got tremendous quality in his life. But we've known people, and maybe we've even been that person in our time of recovery, where our quality isn't what it should be. So sometimes there is a difference between the two, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to deal with a kind of an issue of being someone that came in and out of the program. I dealt with this issue of I would come back in and I would see the people that I first got sober with having a few years, and so it was something that I always kind of struggled with. And then what I was able to realize in my first year of recovery was that it doesn't matter how much time someone has. If they don't have what I want, it doesn't matter if they have 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. My ultimate goal with recovery is to be happy and have some serenity in my life,
Nice.
And if you can have 10, 15 years and not have that, I remember when I had around 18 months and I was pretty miserable, but it was because I wasn't doing the work.
Yeah, there is a great correlation between doing the work and working the plan of recovery and having the quality of life and actually being recovered rather than just not drinking and using. Because we both have seen some people who have been able to not drink or use for a particular period of time, but they're still miserable.
Yeah.
And I look at them and I think, what are you missing? Because the program does allow us to have both, to have the quantity of the quality of sobriety because of the quantity of time that we've been given. One more thing as we close out this segment, especially when you're new, the importance of regular meeting attendance. Where has that been valuable for you?
The biggest thing that it did for me was it got me connected with people in the program that were trying to do the same thing as me. I mean, of plenty of people that go to meetings and they're not really wanting to get sober or clean. And so going on a regular basis showed me the people that I should be surrounding myself around, and it also put me in a position in the beginning where I was always thinking about how I needed to progress and improve, because you go to a meeting to try to better your life,
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to learn new things and grow in your recovery, and so going to meetings on a regular basis kept progression on the forefront of my mind all the time.
Nice. I like that, progression on the forefront of your mind. And that's what we do. We progress in our recovery. And I know for me, when I was a newcomer, I remember the importance of going to meetings, because if I'm having to change old playgrounds and old playmates, well, if I'm going to a regular meeting, I'm getting to know who those new playmates are. And like you said, allows me to figure out who the winners are, who's attending, and those are my new playmates, because I want to stick with the winners. And the winners, in my mind, are the ones who find value in going to meetings. Today, I go to meetings, and it's important for me to be there because I want to meet the newcomer. I want to be an encouragement to people who are new or relatively new, and help them understand that there's another way of living, that they can do this if they're willing, as the big book says, to follow a few simple rules.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the program needs, even as you get some sobriety time, the program doesn't work without people showing us the way.
Yeah.
I think all of us that have been able to stay sober for a little while have all had those integral people that it's like if I didn't have those people in my life, I don't know if I could have done it.
Yeah.
You know, and so if we aren't willing to be those people, in my opinion, it's hard to keep if you're not willing to give it away.
No, that's perfectly said. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Chris, my dear friend, I am the recovery guy, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.